Did Ringo Starr quit the Beatles on Christmas Eve and never come back? No, but he walked out of Abbey Road Studios at 11 p.m. on December 24, 1968, fully intending never to return, convinced he wasn't good enough, convinced the other three would be better off without him, convinced his time as a Beatle was over. What happened in the next 3 hours, in a parking lot outside the studio, changed everything. Not because of what was said, but because of who said it and how he said it. This is the story of the night George Harrison saved the Beatles by saving Ringo Starr. December 24, 1968. Abbey Road Studios, Studio 2, 9 p.m. The Beatles were recording the White Album, or trying to. The sessions had been hell for months. Arguments, tension, Yoko Ono sitting on an amplifier during every take, which made everyone except John uncomfortable. Creative differences turning into personal attacks. The greatest band in the world tearing itself apart one session at a time. Ringo sat behind his drums, tired, so tired. Not physically tired, though the sessions were long and grueling. Soul tired. The kind of tired that comes from feeling like you don't belong, like you're the weak link, like everyone would be better off if you just disappeared. They were working on a Paul song, something complicated, something that required precision and timing, and the kind of musical chemistry the Beatles used to have but couldn't find anymore. Paul kept stopping them, kept asking for another take, kept saying it wasn't quite right. "Ringo, you're rushing," Paul said through the talkback from the control room. Ringo looked up at the glass, saw Paul's silhouette. "Sorry, let's go again from the top." They played it again. Ringo focused, really focused, tried to hit every beat exactly where Paul wanted it, tried to be perfect. Paul stopped them again. "Ringo, now you're dragging. It needs to be right in the pocket. Tight. Listen to what I'm playing and lock in with that." John, standing at his microphone with his guitar, sighed loud enough for everyone to hear. "Maybe we should just use a metronome." Paul ignored him. "One more time. Ringo, really concentrate." Ringo nodded, picked up his sticks, started the count, and played it again. Same tempo, same feel, same everything. Because Ringo was one of the best drummers in the world, and he knew exactly what he was doing. But it didn't matter, because Paul wasn't hearing what Ringo was playing. Paul was hearing what he wanted in his head, and those two things weren't matching. Paul stopped them again. "That's still not it. George Martin, can you come down and show Ringo the feel I'm looking for?" That's when it happened. That's when something inside Ringo broke. George Martin, their producer, started to stand up, but Ringo stood up faster, set his drumsticks down on the snare, carefully, deliberately. Then he took off his headphones and placed them on the stool. "Ringo," George Harrison said, first to notice, first to sense something was wrong. Ringo didn't answer, just walked toward the door. "Where are you going?" Paul's voice through the talkback, annoyed, like Ringo was being difficult, like Ringo was the problem. Ringo stopped at the door, turned back, looked at the three of them. John, Paul, George, his brothers, his bandmates, the people he'd spent the last 8 years of his life with, creating magic, changing the world, being the Beatles. "I'm not good enough," Ringo said quietly. "You should get someone else." "What are you talking about?" Paul came out of the control room, confused, not understanding. "Ringo, we just need to nail this part. It's not personal." "It is personal," Ringo said. "Every session for the last 6 months has been personal. You stop me every 5 minutes. You criticize every fill, every choice. And I get it. I'm not as good as you need me to be, so find someone who is." "Ringo, don't be ridiculous," John said. But there was no conviction in it. John was checked out, had been for months, too focused on Yoko and his own pain to notice anyone else's. "I'm done," Ringo said. "I quit." He walked out, down the hallway, past the studio staff who pretended not to notice, out the back door into the cold December night, Christmas Eve, 11 p.m., and Ringo Starr was no longer a Beatle. In the studio silence, Paul stood there stunned. "He's just upset. He'll cool down and come back tomorrow." "It's Christmas Eve," George said quietly. "There is no tomorrow." We're off until the 26th. Then he'll come back on the 26th. Will he? George looked at Paul. Really looked. Paul, did you hear what he said? He thinks he's not good enough. He thinks we don't want him. That's absurd. Ringo's a great drummer. Then why do you keep stopping him? Why do you keep criticizing every single thing he does? Paul's face flushed. Because I'm trying to make the song perfect. That's my job. I write the songs. I have a vision for how they should sound. And everyone else is just here to execute your vision? George's voice was rising. This fight had been building for months. We're not your session musicians, Paul. We're the Beatles. We're supposed to be equals. I never said we weren't equals. You don't have to say it. You make it clear every single day. And now Ringo's gone. And you're standing here acting like it's his fault for being too sensitive. Paul opened his mouth to respond, but George was already moving, heading for the door. Where are you going? John asked. To get Ringo. George grabbed his coat and went out the back door. The cold hit him immediately. December in London, near freezing. His breath came out in clouds. The parking lot was mostly empty. Just a few cars, staff vehicles, the Beatles' cars. And there, sitting on the curb next to his car, was Ringo, head in his hands, shoulders shaking. George walked over slowly, sat down next to him. The concrete was freezing, wet from earlier rain, but George sat anyway, right next to his friend, his brother, the person who'd been holding down the rhythm for the Beatles since 1962. For a while, neither of them spoke, just sat there in the cold. On Christmas Eve, outside the studio where they'd created A Hard Day's Night and Help and Rubber Soul and Revolver and everything else, where they'd become the Beatles. Finally, Ringo spoke. You don't have to come after me, George. I meant what I said. I'm done. I know you did, but I came anyway. Why? George thought about it. Because you're my friend, and friends don't let friends quit on Christmas Eve sitting alone in a parking lot. Ringo laughed, small, bitter. Some Christmas Eve. Yeah, some Christmas Eve. They sat in silence again. Then Ringo said, I'm not good enough, George. You know it. Paul knows it. John knows it. I'm just the guy who got lucky. The guy who happened to be available when Pete got sacked. But I was never supposed to be here. Not really. You three are the talented ones. I'm just Ringo. George turned to look at him. Do you really believe that? Don't you? No, I don't. Not even a little bit. Ringo wiped his face. George, don't lie to me. Not tonight. Not about this. I'm not lying. George's voice was firm, certain. Ringo, you're the best drummer we could have ever found. Not because you're the most technically skilled, though you're better than you think, but because you understand songs. You understand what they need. You don't overplay, you don't show off, you serve the music. That's rare. That's special. That's why you're a Beatle. Paul doesn't think so. Paul's an idiot sometimes. Brilliant, but an idiot. He gets so focused on his vision that he forgets other people have feelings, have value beyond just executing his ideas. That's Paul's problem, not yours. Ringo shook his head. He keeps stopping me. Every session, every song. Nothing I do is right. Because he's scared, George said. We're all scared. The band is falling apart and we all know it. Paul's trying to control everything because if he controls the music, maybe he can stop the collapse. John's checked out because he can't control anything, so why try? And I'm caught in the middle, trying to keep everyone from killing each other. And me? Ringo asked. What am I doing? You're holding it together, literally. The drums are the foundation. When you play, we all lock in together. We become a band. When you quit, there is no Beatles, just three guys with guitars arguing in a studio. Ringo was quiet, absorbing this. Then he said, I don't feel like I'm holding anything together. I feel like I'm barely hanging on. Yeah, me too. They sat there, two Beatles, on Christmas Eve, freezing, exhausted, broken. Then George said something he'd been thinking for months but hadn't said out loud. I think about quitting too, all the time. Ringo looked at him. Really? Yeah, this isn't fun anymore. It's work, hard, miserable work. We used to laugh, used to enjoy making music. Now it's just tension, arguments, pain. Sometimes I think we should just end it. Walk away while we still remember why we loved each other. So why don't you? George smiled, sad. Because I'm not brave enough. Because I don't know who I am if I'm not a Beatle. Because even though it's hard, I still love it. Still love the music. Still love you guys. Even Paul when he's being impossible. Even John when he's being distant. Even you when you're sitting in parking lots threatening to quit. I wasn't threatening. I actually quit. No, you didn't. Yes, I did. I walked out. I'm done. Ringo, do you want to know a secret? George leaned in, conspiratorial. Everyone quits the Beatles. I quit last month. Didn't tell anyone except Patty. Just decided one morning I was done. Then that afternoon I went to the studio because I didn't know what else to do. John quits every other week, usually around 3 a.m. when he's drunk and philosophical. Paul's never quit because Paul's too stubborn to admit defeat. But the rest of us, we quit all the time. And then we come back, because this is the Beatles. And no matter how hard it gets, it's still the Beatles. Ringo laughed, real laugh this time. That's insane. Yeah, it is, but it's true. So what am I supposed to do? Just go back in there and pretend I didn't walk out? No, you're supposed to go back in there knowing your worth, knowing that you're Ringo Starr and you're essential, and Paul can criticize all he wants, but he needs you. We all need you. Without you, we're not the Beatles. We're just three guys who don't know how to keep time. Ringo looked at the studio, thought about going back, about facing Paul and John and the awkwardness and the tension, about picking up his drumsticks and counting off another take of another song that would probably get stopped again. What if nothing changes, Ringo asked. What if I go back and it's still miserable? Then it's still miserable, but at least we're miserable together. At least we're the Beatles. George stood up, held out his hand. Come on, it's Christmas Eve. Let's go make some music, even if it's painful music. Even if Paul stops us 100 times, at least we'll be doing it together. Ringo looked at George's hand, at his friend, his brother, the quiet Beatle who everyone underestimated, but who always knew exactly what to say. Ringo took his hand, let George pull him up. They walked back into Abbey Road together, cold, wet, but together. When they walked into Studio 2, Paul and John were sitting in silence, waiting, not playing, not talking, just sitting. Paul saw Ringo and stood up. Ringo, I'm sorry. You're right. I was being too critical, too controlling. You're an incredible drummer and I'm lucky to have you. Ringo nodded. Thanks, Paul. Can we try the song again? And this time I'll trust you to play it how it feels right to you? Yeah, let's try it. Ringo walked to his drums, picked up his sticks, sat down. George caught his eye, gave him a small nod. You've got this. They played the song. Ringo played it exactly how he'd played it before. Same tempo, same feel, same everything. And Paul didn't stop them. Just let it happen. Let Ringo be Ringo. Let the song be what it was supposed to be. When they finished, Paul's voice came through the talkback. That was perfect. That was exactly right. Ringo smiled. First real smile in months. They finished the session at 2 a.m. Christmas morning. Walked out of Abbey Road together. 4 Beatles. Still broken. Still struggling. But still together. George and Ringo walked to their cars together. Thank you, Ringo said, for coming after me. For what you said. I meant every word. I know. That's why it mattered. They stood there for a moment. Then Ringo said, Merry Christmas, George. Merry Christmas, Ringo. The Beatles broke up 16 months later. Officially ended. Done. But that night, Christmas Eve 1968, George Harrison saved the band. Saved Ringo. Saved the music. Not forever. But for a while longer. Long enough to record Abbey Road. Long enough to create one more masterpiece. Long enough to say goodbye properly. Ringo never forgot that conversation. That moment in the parking lot when he was ready to quit and George sat down next to him and reminded him who he was. Years later in interviews, Ringo would say, George saved my life that night. Not literally, but emotionally, spiritually. I was done, ready to walk away. And George sat with me in the freezing cold and told me I mattered, that I was essential, That I was a Beatle? Nobody had said that to me in months, and I needed to hear it. George Harrison died in 2001. Ringo was devastated. At the funeral, Ringo stood up and told this story about Christmas Eve, about the parking lot, about George reminding him of his worth. George was the quiet one, Ringo said, but when he spoke, it mattered. It changed things, changed people. He changed me that night, saved me, and I'll be grateful for that for the rest of my life. That's the story that should be told about the Beatles, not just the hits and the fame and the screaming fans, but the moments when they saved each other, when they reminded each other who they were, when they chose brotherhood over ego. Ringo Starr quit the Beatles on Christmas Eve, and George Harrison brought him back, not with grand speeches or manipulation or guilt, but with honesty, with friendship, with love. That's what the Beatles really were. Four friends who loved each other enough to sit in freezing parking lots on Christmas Eve and say, "You matter. Come back. We need you." And that's a gift worth more than any hit song. That's family.